trust nobody from here on out. We speak nothing of our mission. We are simply travelers, merchants, moving from one area to another.
Raziel
Sunny,
nods and goes over to Core and helps begin to fortify.
Sunny speaks up. Remember, Talandra, tapping you on the shoulder. Those women in the bar, those Vistani, they know what we're up to. Ooh, I talked to them a long time ago, but they know we're not just travelers. They've probably already told Madame Eva. I don't know if we could fool them. Others, perhaps, but they already know a bit about us.
Yes, I'm well aware of your liberal policy with words. Let us just fix the damage we've caused now and continue.
They are
Arena.
allies. You'll see. They are allies.
Sure. Arena.
I hope.
Yes, Talandra.
Do you have any more simple clothing? Clothing that's not quite befitting someone of your stature. Something more like a maid would wear, or a traveling merchant. Something simple and dressed down.
She looks down at herself before nodding. I have simpler garb. Things to wear for the road.
Pack light and get ready. We leave in the break of the morn. And Talander kind of slides down into a chair and pulling out a small weathered journal, begins to scribble quickly inside of it.
Richard's assessing the carriage to see whether or not it can be fixed.
All right, roll an investigation for me, Richard.
Oof. Not a real good investigator.
With a 10, you know what? Honestly, it's not that hard to assess. Perhaps
A
why.
DC 10 is a DC 10 is a normal DC.
Yeah, it's not too bad. 10's good. It should be enough. Which because you recognize almost immediately. The issue is the front axle. It's not entirely broken, but it's seen better days. It's been left to moisture and rot and looks like it could break almost just from having hitched the horses and drawing the carriage from inside to outside, let alone if perhaps it got stuck in the mud and needed to be pulled hard.
Oops.
With my
Ignore that.
proficiencies in vehicles, would I be able to fix it with the materials around me?
It may take you some time, but you think maybe you could reinforce it.
Well, that's what Richard's doing. He's going to be mending the what is it? It's a carriage.
It's more of
a wagon.
It is a carriage. It has doors and an interior. It sits.
So it's enclosed.
It is. It has two passenger seats. Each side sits about 2 to 3, depending on the size of the passengers. There's also a cargo storage on the back and on the top. And then there's a driver's seat and space for potentially 2 passengers next door. Or next to them. So it can seat 9, basically. But that would be a capacity.
Can we fashion a roof?
There's a roof, but it has sort of like old school station, or not station, like a stagecoach. It has cargo storage on top.
Canvas?
Some of it is canvas, but the sides are like a hard wood. The interior is old, but still plush. Something like that. Yeah, exactly, Calliope.
Ooh, I like it.
Though a little larger inside, like the buggy itself.
Yeah. Okay.
And the axle's less open.
If there's
more
not...
Sorry, go ahead.
I was just going to say, if there's not much to fortify house-wise, like doors and barricades and whatnot, Razia will help Richard in repairing
All right.
his carriage.
So you inspect the building with Core. Ismark, or whoever potentially hold up this home prior, did a fairly decent job. Many of the windows are all boarded up, despite the glass having been shattered out some time prior. Uh, they are well sealed, and the door has a chain on the inside that is thick and could potentially hold even against Core for at least a couple kicks. Um, so the home is rather secure. Um, you would feel comfortable enough, or at least know that without anything more than what you have, it would be difficult to shore the home up any more than it already is.
Razia looks at Cora and goes, I'm gonna kind of like motions, I'm gonna help with the carriage. And if he needs me, let me know.
Where is Irina? Oh, sorry.
Irina has crossed the threshold of the home and is removing her. She was wearing a black cloak and hood in mourning for her father, and she is removing it and hanging it on a coat inside. She looks like she's either lost or deeply lost in a sullen thought.
Irina, would you mind coming with me to the reading room? I have some questions that. And Isla kind of looks around at everyone up to their own things. I don't know how comfortable you will be speaking openly of them.
Irina looks to the rest of the party and then back to Isla. I can answer any questions that you may have of me, Isla. If I can, of course. Some things, some details are still hard to recall. She rubs her neck.
Yes, I can only imagine. But my questions are less of Strahd, our mystery man, and more of you. You yourself are quite the mystery. That sword that you took from the mausoleum. And Ismark, he's not your full brother. You're adopted, correct?
She looks at you, almost surprised you know that. That's true. My father, the Burgermeister, he found me when I was very little. I don't remember anything from before that. They took me in and took care of me. But even if Ismark isn't my real brother, it doesn't matter.
And you were never told of your true parentage?
I
Simply
don't.
just abandoned?
She shakes her head. I'm not sure. There are many orphans in Barovia, as I suppose you could imagine.
Yes, but not all of them are taken in by the Burgermeister. I hate to be so forward, but times are really, they're quite sensitive. One can't be beating around the bush. Why they took you in, particularly, if there are so many other orphans, which I can only imagine is the case in such a town.
I can't say for sure why. Well, I guess my father always had a soft heart. If he could have, he would have cared for all the orphans in Barovia.
Isla kind of goes to gently pat her on the shoulder. Why were you so desperate to get this sword? Of all the swords you could have taken, what's special about this one?
She shrugs. I. Hmm. It was my great grandmother's. It was said she came to this world from the outside as well. Perhaps I have a. Well, I hope to find a bit of her bravery and strength by taking this with me. Perhaps there's a bit of her in me, too.
Your great grandmother? As in your late father's grandmother?
She nods. It's not the first time outsiders have come to Barovia.
No. Well, I mean, we all ended up here, and it wasn't exactly hard for us. We walked on in. So she came here and never left?
I don't know if any have ever left once they've come here, Isla.
I was concerned of that. But you can guarantee that if anyone's going to find a way back out of here, I will. For all of our sakes. And she kind of looks back outside the door at everyone. Talandra writing in her journal, and Richard kind of humming and hawing over this wagon, and Raz looking about, fortifying the building. We are not of this place, and we do not belong here.
As you are looking out the window, you see Sonny's stupid face poking from the doorway, and he walks in and he goes, "Hey, Isla. Oh, Arena. Perfect. You're here too. Hey, I was rummaging through my things just now, and well, I discovered this note that I pocketed earlier, and I remove from my pocket the note which had a list of names and addresses, some of which were redacted. If you remember that earlier,
I do.
I believe we found that at the murder scene by the scarecrow, if I'm remembering, or where was it?
You found it inside the Durst Manor, deep down in one of the
Right,
cultists' robes.
right, that's what it was. And so I go, right. Right. So after I've just jogged my memory, I remember where I found it, guys. It was. Sonny does a quick montage of a memory jog. You see him first leaning on his hand, and then he's looking up at the sky, and then he's stroking his beard. And as the montage ends, he remembers where he found it, and he says, "Right, we found this in the basement of that horrible place. It was actually in one of the pockets of one of the robes, I think. Uh, Arena." Do any of these names or any of these places mean something to you? I don't know if we could figure something out from this. And I hand the note over to Irina gleefully.
She
Sorry, what were you guys? Were you
smiles.
guys talking about something?
She sort of she says, "Hello, Sonny," and sort of smiles bemusedly at your extended explanation, and then moment of sort of like thoughtfulness as you remember where it came from, and then hands the paper over.
As she's reading, Isla kind of just gives Sunny an almost like not a sneer, but just a somewhat warm smile that's tinged with a slight snarl. Although some of us are better suited to this place than others, and may not do so badly staying here forever.
Sonny looks up, sort of noticing that Isla's there, and go like, "Oh, hey!" He gives a good friendly smile, completely oblivious to the fact that he's just barged in.
She looks over the names. Some of these names are familiar. Old families. Some of them long gone. This name here. It's from a family that hasn't lived in Barovia for over 200 years. Their estates long sold away. Where did you find this? You said in the Durst Manor.
Yeah, that was his name. That's right. Yeah, the horrible place in the basement. Awful abominations, things like I've never seen before. But we saved him. We saved him the best we could, and there were some robes, old tattered robes, and in one of the pockets I found this list. It seemed like maybe a list of correspondences or something. I don't know. Can you make anything of it?
She thinks for a moment before shaking her head. I I'm not sure what to make of it, Sonny.
Do
It's,
any of those families still have surviving members which we could ask, or is it simply a dead end?
well, I suppose we could track down people from this list, but not only are, well, as Talandra put it, it's hard to trust people in Barovia. Knocking on doors may not give us answers, no more than this piece of paper might be giving you, Sonny. She hands it back to you.
And Sonny, do you truly wish to track down people affiliated with the family Durst? We saw what they had in their basement.
Sonny fumbles with the paper, putting it back in his pocket, looking up and thinking on that for a moment, and sort of goes, No, no, I suppose we best get out of this place. I'll just keep this list around, though. You never know.
But before you rest, we need to compile notes about what we know of vampires.
Vampires. I'm afraid I've never encountered one of them before. Well, until today.
Yes, and quite an example he is. Can I roll for something to see what Isla knows of vampires from her scholarliness?
Certainly.
History?
Oh,
Investigation?
let me see.
Religion?
Perhaps, I don't know, yeah, I guess I
Hmm.
could roll too. Perhaps Sonny learned something in his studies, although it's not within my area of study, so it
What
would
do
have had to
you
been,
what are you proficient in? As far as are you proficient in history? Do
I'm
you
equally proficient in investigation, history, arcana, and religion.
um this would be
Books.
hmm. Are you using your knowledge of history, your knowledge of magic, or your knowledge of religion to determine this? What would
On all
Isla know?
honestly, she'll probably use anything she's got. She'll
Okay.
just sort of sit down and hunker down for the next while and just kind of browse through her
R- hmm.
brain.
Roll me a religion check then.
Yes, +1 because of the cloak that she's never ever taking off.
Sonny, you can roll
I'm
me
gonna
an
roll.
arcana since that's sort of what you studied in
Sure,
school.
sounds good.
If I'm talking him through it, can we get the guidance buff? Because in my head, Isla's sitting down with Sunny to sort of discuss and compile notes of what they might know over time.
Sure, you can cast guidance.
Yes.
So does that give me advantage or?
It's an extra 4 on. Oh, look at us really using our knowledge. I got 12
Perhaps we should
+1.
consult the group members on this topic.
Does anyone know of vampires? Any dealings, one-on-one, any book readings, even a tale?
Well,
Alondra. Oh, no, go.
well, Calliope did recognize when Isla was under that influence. It looked very familiar, so I'd like to maybe assist and put in my 2 bits and maybe roll a religion.
By all means. You recognize Calliope sort of standing in the doorway of the study. She seems to be deep in thought.
Calliope, do you? And Isla sort of recalls how when she was charmed and had misty stepped behind Strahd and was talking to the group, how Calliope almost had this face of PTSD, like she'd seen before something similar.
Roll a
I don't.
religion check, Calliope, if you would not mind.
Sorry, so many tabs.
It's all right.
I'm paladin.
While you have memories of people being charmed by devious creatures, knowledge of vampires themselves is not something that you know of.
the talk of that charm. Sorry, Jillian, did you have another thing? I didn't mean to.
Nope, go on ahead, Kai. Just
You're
shrug
like, no,
both of
Shikalabi, yeah.
them.
Sunny, remembering that charm, goes, well, there's one more advanced spell that I was toying with a bit before I departed from the university. It's one I don't use very often, but oh gosh, I flipped through my book real quick. Oh, that's right, that's right. Here it is. Suggestion. In this, I've seen this done by my professors successfully, and it reminded me a bit of the effect. Like somehow
In the
he had.
meantime, while Sunny is doing that, can Calliope
Oh,
briefly go
oops,
outside
I
and
forgot I was on push to talk.
go ahead?
Well, I don't remember where I don't realize where I cut off.
Just,
Huh?
Oh, you muted yourself there.
you were showing us the spell.
Oh, right. So yeah, so I've seen this spell completed by my professors. It was called Suggestion, and its effect reminded me of what we saw him do to you. You you can force someone to follow your will, and I don't know. Maybe he used something like this on you, some sort of suggestion charm. I don't know if that might give me any sort of different role or just whatever, just the fact that I have a spell, but yeah.
Well, Calliope managed to hold off against his charm. So perhaps there's a strength to her that I do not share. But yes, suggestion. I'm not altogether familiar personally with the spell, but it sounds quite the same as what I was under. I was entirely aware of what I was doing, what I was saying, but it almost wasn't me. I was like a puppet almost to his will. Oh my goodness. I just saw the spell. I It's so hard to explain, and even thereafter, I feel almost like the strings aren't entirely detached yet.
Sandra, listening to this for a while and poring through her old journal, snaps her book shut and looks up from the group. Listen, Sonny. Things that we have seen today go far beyond things that we've any of us have seen. These creatures aren't something that any of us have stumbled upon before. I have poured through all my notes, all my time fighting different creatures and curing different ailments, and I have found nothing that is quite like this creature. While you may have a spell that's similar, I'm sure we all do, I think we are dealing with something much, much more powerful than anything we might know. So please, let us not have conjecture or misinformation, but then let's just go with what we do know. And I would also like to attempt to scrape my inner brain goo and try to find out anything
Yeah,
about
Sonny's like,
vampires.
okay then, see if you can roll a d20 better than me then, bitch.
Yeah, I only got 13. Did we learn? Have we compiled anything about vampires yet?
Roll your religion.
I did. I got 13.
No, I'm
No,
talking to
Talandra.
Talandra.
Oh, beg your pardon.
It's all
13.
right.
Nice Midland day.
You know, Talandra, that vampires not only charm through whatever sort of dark arts they control, um, it's more powerful than any sort of suggestion spell Sunny's masters may be able to conjure. A vampire's charm lasts for at least a full day, and only when that vampire demands an act so great as to cause physical harm or actual possible death of the charmed person does those under the influence of a vampire even get a chance to possibly break away from its spell. Until then, that person is almost completely at the command of the vampire. Vampires are also, of course, this is perhaps common knowledge to anyone, are weak to the sun, and many find themselves having to take refuge during the day. Perhaps this is why there is no sunlight in Barovia. Strad, walked right through your group in the mausoleum in the middle of the day, or at least what can be called day in Barovia. So perhaps that weakness won't be a strength here for your party. You also know that the myth of vampires not being able to cross a threshold most of the time proves true, though there have been cases of vampires who can break that law, but for the most part, that is true.
In the interest of time, I have been relaying this information
Yeah.
in the voice of the dungeon master to the party. So I believe that we must tread lightly and not assume that any spell or anything that Strahd or his minions do is something we have seen before. We are in a foreign land with foreign magic and much, much more powerful enemies. I believe that we should just rest, gather ourselves and our things, and continue to move on.
You said yourself that some vampires can walk right through doors. What's to stop him from coming tonight and just taking her away?
I would rather fight Strahd again in a place that is familiar than fight him on the road. Let us just relax and rest. And I gather my things and give a bow to the party and proceed towards the nearest quiet place to begin my evening prayers.
She's growing feistier by the day, but she's not wrong. This is certainly an enemy that none of us can truly come up against. Even with all of our strengths combined, we were a little match for him. Until we know more of him and his weaknesses and this place, we must almost be like shadows ourselves and draw little to no attention, keep our mouths shut, keep our noses to the ground, and almost use this fog to our advantage. We are but travelers. The Vistani may already know that this is not the case, but for any else, we are just merchants traveling the land. And perhaps this Madame Eva will have more for us. We cannot trust their words necessarily, but all information, lies or no, sometimes the best knowledge is found in what's not said, don't you think?
Sunny just sort of looks up and nods. Doesn't even really look at you. Just sort of nods as you recognize that he's heard you.
She is right. We should take ourselves to bed. Although I have one thing to do beforehand. And Isla stands up and she gets to preparing an alarm ritual around the threshold of the building.
Hey, Arena. Sunny speaks up as he's exiting the room, turning back over my shoulder. This might be an odd question, but you wouldn't happen to know where a man might find some herbal smoking material around here,
God.
would you? I'm running dangerously low, you see, and I'm afraid I've developed quite the habit.
My father, he keeps a small pouch of tobacco in his study. Perhaps it will serve you until you find more herbs that suit you.
Ah, thank you so much. Sunny leaves the room. Or wait, where is? Have I? Do I already know where the study is? We've been here. We've been in this house before.
It is through the double doors to the north, just that way.
Ah, yes, of course.
It's in a velvet red pouch that he keeps in the top drawer of his desk.
That was the most convincing Sunny roleplay.
I thank you, Arena. I thank you.
She
Sunny
smiles, of course.
shuffles off to go find the tobacco, and of course I will replenish him someday.
Irina makes her way out of the study and disappears into the dining room / parlor.
Calliope heads upstairs, following in Melandra's wake.
Twig stands in the door of the carriage house. He's holding the reins of the new draft horse. damsel is snorting, a little distressed, looking at the new horse. She sort of holds her head high and shakes her mane, looking displeased at perhaps another horse stealing the limelight. Richard.
Richard reassures her. She's still number one in his life.
She stamps her hooves as if she understands Richard and nods her head.
He he asks that she try and make friends.
She turns her nose away for a little while. Twig leads the draft horse over to the stall nearby, but not the same one. Twig seems to understand enough of the human equipment now and unbridles the horse and helps it find comfort and some hay inside of its own stall. It's a little smaller than Damsel. Its coat is like a charcoal gray. Not quite black, but dark. Especially stark in comparison to Damsel's more silver white. Twig gives the horse a reassuring pat as it seems to find its comfort inside of the carriage.
Got all our
as
veggies ready to go, then
Twig
we're ready to start cooking.
goes to
So,
help
Skylar,
Raziel and Richard with whatever is happening beneath the carriage. The rotten wood is soft, but you're able to find some logs to split, and perhaps with some bindings and some nails, you can secure the wagon and its spokes or its axle. Though, if anything were to happen along the road that required hasty retreat, how long this carriage might last is questionable.
Is Richard back from checking the horses? Because
It's in the same area.
if so, then Raziel kind of lets Richard know. Uh, this isn't gonna last anything, Marty. Even if with our materials that we have now. And continues to put it together and make amends as much as he can.
It's gonna last long enough until we can get to at least a craftsman who can make us a new one, or until I can make a new one from a new tree.
Raziel nods and continues to make sure that all the fastenings are to secured state. Then we'll go inside. And those things are finished.
All right. It takes you
Finished.
an hour or two to get the carriage into a state that you feel is about as satisfactory as you can make it. It's a good job. It's just more the materials you have at hand that's lacking. But it will do. Or it will have to do.
Before fully going inside, Raziel does turn to Core and asks how the outsides and their defenses are doing for the evening, and if he should stay in the parlor for the night and sleep there to watch.
Core looks up from this journal he seems to be poring over, muttering to himself, I must find information. Um, Looks up at you a little distracted. Do whatever you see fit. I feel a little distracted tonight, and I don't feel that my opinion be of any value to you? He shakes his head and he looks down, reading his book. Oh, I was muted.
No.
Sorry.
No, you weren't.
Oh, I wasn't. Okay.
No, we heard all that.
Yeah, we heard that. Roz nods back and then places himself in the parlor, and just like he did the first night, kind of finds an ottoman, a nice comfy chair, and sets himself up for sleeping slash doing first watch.
Very well. Do the rest of you make your way to bed?
Yes, sir.
Yes, I finish up my prayers to Ilmater to protect him against protect Ismark against whatever tortures that Strahd may throw at him. And yes, go to bed.
Hmm.
Isla has set the alarm on the front door and speaks out to any that are around. Some have already taken themselves to bed, some might already be settled in the parlor. This bell shall ring. We will all hear it. I've designated it so that none of us can set off the alarm, but we can all hear it. Should anything try and intrude through this door, it's the best I can do without setting alarms across the entire building. So don't feel like you have to stay up and watch. It will wake you. It is magic. And should you need me, I will be in my chambers above. Just ask Whisper at the door. And she takes herself to the room she stayed in the night before. Whisper on the banister of the staircase, the wraparound landing, I guess.
The mezzanine.
The mezzanine.
So he's just like up there on that first,
Yeah, he's up there just
watching the
doing
hallway.
his thing, watching the hallway, hanging out.
All right.
So Sonny makes his way through the doors of the study and searches for the red velvet pouch.
You find it within the top drawer of the desk, as she said.
Okay, so I open the pouch and I have a look inside to see what my haul is.
It's fragrant. It's powerful smelling. It'll do.
Very nice. Well, Sonny looks around for a balcony or some nice quiet place out, where he could smoke. Maybe just a large window, and settles down with he mixes some of that with his favorite herb from home as to extend it, and sits down to meditate for my long rest.
Sonny finds every window to be boarded up, sadly, with thick, heavy wood, unable to really pry any free with his strength. Unless he really wants to just blast one open with some sort of spell, he'll probably just have to sit on that front porch balcony area to enjoy his herbal mixture.
Fair enough. Sonny then will settle out there. It doesn't bother him much. He doesn't need to sleep, so he'll sit on the porch, looking up at Whisper and relax out there.
Roll perception for me. Since you are outside, Sonny. A 19. As you sit there, the fog rolling in heavy as the darkness of the night sort of settles in, twilight and evening having waned far away, you spot in a tall pine tree the silhouette of a large raven, its head cocked and turned towards you, Sonny, as you breathe out another puff of your herbal mixture to join the fog that's coalescing around you.
Noticing the raven, I look up at it and I feel a bit of a chill, recognizing that these ravens are omens of something not good here in this place. I call over to Whisper, and I tell him to go and let Ah, shoot. Oh, it was Twig. Okay. Well, oh well, Twig's not here. I mean, I guess I can still interact with Twig, right?
Yeah.
I tell Whisper to go and let Twig know that he should bring his mask down. That there's a bird he might want to speak with.
Funnily enough, Twig can't be found. After he had settled in the horse and wiggled underneath the carriage, he had wandered off outside of the stable doors, and Raziel and Richard had lost sight of him. No one can really remember if he entered the manor or not.
Can I interact? Can I give like a command? Can he understand me, Whisper? If I give him like a more advanced command other than come?
Yeah.
He understands common and
Okay.
any real languages that Isla understands.
Okay. So Whisper reports to me that Twig is gone, and I say, "All right. Well, hey, what do you think about this, buddy? That that bird, I call him buddy. That's we're at that level. Well,
Hey, buddy.
that bird, hey, buddy guy. Okay, that bird up there. I think it's one of those ravens. I don't know how they're connected with all this, but I think they all are. Maybe you should follow it safely and see if you can see where it's headed. What do you think about that, buddy?"
Whisper kind of just like stares at him and with his wings kind of like shrugs as a falcon can do. And he turns back inside and with his wing extended, as if pointing, he points up towards Isla's bedroom as if to say, I can telepathically wake her if you need because I need to follow her instructions because that's what it says in my things. He's got to obey my commands.
Sunny, recognizing that entire complex thought in just a shrug, understands perfectly and says,
Speak
"Please."
bird now.
Right, noticing that I haven't taken a drag from my herbal cigarette in a while, I take a long drag as I watch Whisper head off toward Isla's room, and I look back up to make sure that the bird is still there. And yeah,
It is still there.
does it seem like it heard our conversation?
It's difficult to tell. I would say
Okay.
the raven, just to give a distance, is like 200 feet away.
Okay, then it probably did
Yeah.
because I would have been speaking quietly.
Yeah.
Okay. So that's okay. Cool. So I send Whisper up to wake Isla.
After a few moments, Isla does appear. Oh, I really hope this is good. She's in her
I
nightgown.
didn't want to
It's very,
wake you, Isla. It
it's
was
very
Whisper.
clear. It was the bird.
I
It's
was
very-
prepared to handle this with just me and him.
And her hair's let down. Her monocle's no longer on her face. She's wearing a nightgown, and as she steps outside, she shudders at the chill in the air with the night settled in deep. Whisper woke me. He said that there's a bird. And
Sunny,
she looks down at
shh,
Sunny.
keep your voice
Are
down,
you
keep your
smoking?
voice down.
Oh, okay. What bird?
Yes, I'm smoking. Is that a surprise to you?
No, but should we really be smoking? Never mind. I won't chastise you right now. What is with the bird?
We're still being watched. Look over there, and I just sort of indicate with my head. They're still watching us, the birds. I just wish we knew more about how they're connected with all of this.
It's like that one back at the stables, remember? He was quite a lot larger than any I've seen before, and he just stood and watched until Whisper made him flee.
Not to mention that abomination we encountered outside of the town before we even got here. I wonder if Whisper might be able to stalk this bird. Whisper's very smart. We wouldn't want to send him into danger, but maybe he could figure out where it's going when it departs.
He's smart because he's my familiar, damn it. He's smart because of me. And she kind of like, in her still sleepy, I've just been woken up, stomps her little foot.
Sunny
And
looks over at Whisper and says, "It's okay. I know that she's actually smart because of you."
Whisper gets it. He nods. Oh, and we can't find Twig. Is that right? Whisper mentioned. Oh,
Yeah,
I
Twig's got
think
the mask that talks to the birds, but I don't know if this
the
bird's even
mask
interested
that
in
you
talking.
totally don't remember knows that does that, but I definitely will tell you about that mask now, so you do know.
I think
When
Twig
I
told me. I think. Maybe not. Okay, yeah.
No.
Okay, retcon that real quick. Right, I wanted to get Twig because Twig
he
is
does
you.
have a
Twig,
way with animals.
right? Twig, Twig and I are Twig has always been so familiar with nature and his way that he connects with animals. The fact that he can't speak, it seems like he connects on a deeper level. I thought he might have been able to communicate with it.
Even better now. You were gone the other night, just last night. That grotesque raven's mask we found with the beak. When I studied it, it would allow the wearer to communicate with a bird just like this. If only we could find him on this mask, but
Were you able to communicate with that huge raven?
I was not. I just gave it back to him. I'm not going to deprive the thing of his findings. I honestly had no use for it at the time. I didn't think that there would be a bloody raven sat upon our doorstep ready for a conversation.
I sure hope Twig's all right wherever he is. What do you think? Is it worth the risk to send Whisper, or is it not worth it? We may find nothing.
Isla sits next to Sunny and settles herself in. I will use Whisper's eyes, and you will need to keep an eye on me. This me. I can
Well,
see.
looking down in the pouch, I say, Well, that won't be an issue for a while at least."
I will be able to see through his eyes and hear what he hears, and maybe we can get a conversation from this bird.
Or perhaps we just have him follow at a distance. I don't know. I guess he'd be noticed up there in the sky.
I mean, it does look like it's already watching us, so.
That's true. I suppose we're not going to get anything by this bird at this point.
But we can try and speak with him. But please, and I ask this regretfully, knowing that you might not necessarily be the best one to ask, but the others seem to be asleep. Don't let anything happen
Raziel's
to
in the
me.
parlor with his ring.
Okay, so Sunny having
We
just
all sit
walked.
up on the doorstep.
Right, Sunny having just walked down through the house not 5 minutes ago, I say, I think Raz is still up. Whisper, will you go grab him?
He doesn't need to. I've got this ring. You missed that too.
Oh,
When you take yourself away smoking, you really do miss a lot. And Isla just kind of presses the ring, even though she doesn't need to. She twirls it on her finger. Why was that so hot? Raz, are you awake?
He indicates that he's on a. And is sleeping.
Come to the front step.
He wakes up and he comes to the front step.
so we quickly recount the plan to Raziel and ask if he'd be interested in spending some time helping just to keep watch out here in case something were to confront us on this porch.
Isla's sort of sat between them. She presses the step to her left, with Sunny sat smoking on her right. Come, sit. If anything is to happen, you two will be in charge of looking after my body. Ugh.
Raziel does. He doesn't sit, but he leans up against the back door and watches her body intently, and holds his hand in ready action to take out his blade.
Nodding to each of the. All right, here goes nothing. let's see what we can find out from our creepy stalker over there. And almost instantly, Isla's body just sinks into the stair. She slumps weightless, like her entire being has left her former self, and Whisper's eyes suddenly glow a light, and almost as though you can see Isla in him. He's no longer bird. There's a strut to his walking. He sort of fluffs his feathers up and looks back at them gathered on the step and flies towards the tree, looking as not threatening as possible. Just a bird coming to hang out on a branch, just as birds do. They do that all the time. Friendly bird.
Just a friendly bird, just a friendly falcon.
He's got his thumbs out like, hey, what's up? Hey.
Hey. He's from Brooklyn.
What's up, bruh?
The raven gives out a shrill cry as Whisper grows closer. There's a branch close by for your falcon to perch upon. The raven doesn't seem to fly away like it did the previous time.
It was the unthreatening approach, I think.
It hops upon the top of the tree, seeming to call out to Whisper.
Whisper joins him on his branch, invited. Bird roleplay, best roleplay.
You see, Isla, that this raven has a ribbon tied around its neck. It is a light blue, almost a cyan. It's very colorful considering how dour and gray the rest of Barovia has been. It almost has a shimmer to it.
I do have that speak with animals ritual spell. Would I have to cast that as Isla and then go back into my bird? And can my bird speak with? How would that work?
You you would need to cast the speak with animal within range of the raven. But at the moment, the raven does begin to take flight, and it lifts itself into the air, calling back to Whisper. It begins to head northwest.
Whisper follows. Whisper Isla follows northwest. As he takes flight after the raven, he looks back at the now growing smaller image of Isla and Sunny and Raz sat at the doorstep, and he turns back and follows the blue-ribboned raven.
The blue-ribboned raven. The raven does not fly very far as it flies over the tops of the village of Barovia, which from the roofs of the village it looks less oppressed. Some of the chimneys even sort of bellow a warm smoke, and the lights that come from some of the unboarded up windows are warm and amber. It almost reminds you of some of the quieter streets of Waterdeep. However, the raven takes you to the church, where you see a figure leaving the front doors. You recognize the figure from the color of her hair. It seems Twig wasn't the only one to disappear from the manor. Irina is stepping out from the church. She's heading back into the village of Barovia now. Seems to be making her way back to the manor.
I'm sorry, Twig and Irina were at the church?
No, No, Twig is not at the church. I was just saying Twig isn't the only one who disappeared.
They both snuck out.
Gotcha. Okay.
Twig is still unaccounted for.
Having been led there, Whisper Isla looks at the raven and looks down to Irina and almost seems quite thankful for the heads up, and he gestures towards the raven to continue following him as he dives down towards the rooftops to look in the church before following Irina somewhat subtly, just to look inside. Are the door? Did she leave the doors open? Can he see inside to see who else is in there?
The door was left cracked, as if she expected someone else to close it. And as Whisper peers through the doors, he can, for a moment, catch a glimpse of Doru, who is slowly closing the door until the light inside disappears behind a crack that seals itself.
Noted. So Whisper's going to continue tailing Irina, hopefully with the raven in tow.
The raven does follow Whisper, and Irina seems to be making the shortest route back to the Indirovich Manor.
Is she coming towards the front door? Would those on the doorstep see her?
Those on the doorstep, if she grows close enough, would see her. Do you have Whisper and the raven follow her all the way back home?
Yes, they're going to follow her
Alright.
all the way.
Well, it's not long before the rest of you see, from your perspective, what Isla has seen from Whispers. Irina, wrapped in a heavy shawl and cloak, is making her way up the winding path back towards the Indirovich Manor. She pauses for a moment, seeing all of you on the front porch, before making her way back up the steps.
Arena, you want some of this?
I used to sneak some when I was a little girl, but it always made me feel sick. No, Sonny, thank you kindly, but no.
Okay.
I suspected all of you would need rest tonight.
Well, we saw we saw a bird, and we sent our other bird, and the birds are hanging out. Look, there they are. Actually, looks like they kind of followed you back here. I can see them just over there down the street.
A
Anyhow,
bird?
yeah. Anyhow, I don't need to
She looks
sleep.
at the
I'm
two
I'm
birds.
I'm resting now.
Right.
We're just watching over Isla here.
She looks
Isla-
down at Isla.
Oh,
Isla
she sees through
at
the
the
bird.
prompt.
It's you have to talk to her about
Hold
it
on.
later.
What does Isla do?
Isla at the prompt comes back to her body, leaving Whisper to hang out with the raven friend. What were you doing at the church, Irina? When did
What?
you leave?
Oh. For the past year, I've been bringing meals to my uncle. He doesn't leave the church. I was bringing them a meal tonight. An extra for Doru. He needs it so badly. I couldn't leave them in such a state.
Understandable, yes, but we're all sheltered here doing our best to keep you safe, and you'd feel the need to sneak behind our backs? We're risking our lives trying to get you to safety and sanctuary. Some of us almost died in that graveyard to get you away from them and away from danger. You can't simply sneak around. At least inform us, at least let us know.
She nods, a little sorrowful. You're right. I'm sorry. I didn't mean to make your sacrifices mean nothing.
Sunny cuts her off. Don't be a fool. You can't just wander around like that. That's what I've been wanting to do this whole time. My friends have finally gotten through to me. Don't make us try to get through to you as well. Don't run off again like that. If you do, we'll have to shackle you ourselves.
Oh,
She
okay.
almost
Whoa.
looks afraid at that. Shackle me.
Isla stands up and sort of goes to grab Irina's hand. We won't shackle you. Sunny here is just as scared as the rest of us. We may think we're heroes. We may think we have strength, but the last few days we've seen a great deal of horrors, and for better or for worse, we somehow survived. Your brother is in danger, and you are too. And we're doing our best to keep you safe, but you need to keep us informed. We can't help you if we don't know where you are. You're no babe, that's true. But if you're away from us, how can we look out for you?
I understand. I will do as you say.